Guys, you know that I love large knives, like my military 2 and my amphibian by Microtech. They're great, but for a portion of the knife community, a large portion, that's just too much. And sometimes mini knives are the way to go, which is convenient because Vosteed has been sending me a bunch of them. So let's turn this around and take a look at a really cool one, the Mini Labrador. All right, guys, you heard me in the intro. We're talking about another one of these Vosteed mini knives. And I love mini knives because they do open up in the knife world to people that typically wouldn't want to carry like something like this, a big knife like this. They wouldn't necessarily want something like that. So these things are really cool. To get the little disclaimer out of the way, this did come from Vosteed. They sent it to me. They don't get a pass. They know this. They've been told that they're going to get honest reviews on all products. But this thing, I can honestly tell you, is great. So we're going to do some boring stuff first. We're going to do some specs. We're going to do some size comparison and stuff like that. So I'm going to put a spec sheet up over here so you guys can follow along for a second. If you want, you can pause it, look at it. But I will tell you that this is only 6.23 inches with a 2.73-inch blade. You saw that on the seat. It's not a big knife. It's done in really good materials, titanium, 14C28N. It's running on bearings. It is a flipper, and it's got a titanium sculpted pocket clip, frame lock on this. This one is the black PVD coated version, and the black PVD coating has held up really well. And it is only 1.93 ounces, just under 2 ounces. This is a very light little knife. So let's do some quick size comparison, get it out of the way. Your first knife is always going to be Spyderco Paramilitary 2, the PM2. You can see this is a very little knife. Like I said, I had the military in my pocket for a comparison. That is not a very big knife. So your next knife for size comparison is the Benchmade 940, one of the best known, most well-known knives in the knife industry. You can see there the size comparison. And for you guys that are new to the channel, I do this so that you have a visual representation. So me telling you that it's under 7 inches is just, it's not enough. So there you go. There's that one. And your final knife, as always, is the Chris Reese Benza Large 21, the quintessential folding knife. There you go. There's the size comparisons out of the way. Let's get this out of the way and talk about this great little knife. So when this came and it showed up, I was really impressed with how much I liked this one. Now, Vosteed has sent me a bunch of their other mini knives, and some of them have been great. Some of them I like more than others. This one is up there with the Mini Nightshade, which I think is better than the full-size version. Now, I have not gotten to see the actual Labrador. This is the Mini Labrador, but if it's as good as this one, I'm going to tell you right now, it's a go. So like I said, titanium frame lock on this with a flipper action, and the action on it is very good. A lot of times these smaller knives give up something, and that's not the case on this one. So you've got this drop point blade that is ground very nicely. It's not super thin blade stock either. This is a fairly robust small knife, but it comes down to a very nicely done behind the edge thickness, which is something that I really appreciate from Vosteed. They really put the cutting capability of their knives at the forefront. All of their knives are very slicey, have really good behind the edge geometry, even these smaller knives. These aren't expensive either. I'll put a link down below. 14C28 on this has held up great. I only had to strop it the one time. It is a very nice looking knife, but it also fits really well in all pockets. The feel in hand, absolutely incredible for such a small knife. I'm looking at a 3-finger grip on this, but I don't feel like I'm giving up on anything. And it does have a lanyard hole. Typically, I complain about lanyard holes, but I think on this, if you've got big hands like me, a lanyard may give you just a little bit extra on that, and it would feel even better. It does not feel bad at all, even in a 3-finger grip. Incredible access to the lock bar. The access to the lock bar on this is great. So when you get ready to disengage the lock, it is easy. Even if you're wearing gloves, this is a knife that even if you were wearing gloves would pose no problem. In the pocket, it sits beautifully. You can carry this in your main pocket, but it is still also small enough that it will sit down inside the watch pocket very comfortably. And the fact that they sculpted this pocket clip, they did such a good job with this. There is no hot spot, even on a small knife, where that pocket clip is going to be in an area that would be a little more sensitive than most knives. It does not at all pose a problem. And then just the way it cuts for such a small knife. You wind up with a lot of blade. You've got a nice straight flat area here with a little bit of belly up towards the front. I absolutely love this knife, and I'm curious. I may have to seek out the full size version of this knife just so I can see. It comes in a few different variants. This is the black version, but I know that they have a couple other versions of this, and it is running on bearings. All their knives run on bearings, and they do such a great job with all their knives. I would honestly like to say that in this one, I would like to have seen an axis lock because I know how good their axis locks are. But the action on this with the flipper, I think, is just, I think that on a axis lock, it wouldn't be as good. So just a beautiful knife. Now, there's a couple small things about this that I do have to point out. So when we get done with, I'm sorry, when we're going to do flip side of the knife, flip side of the story. Geez, Mike, get your head together. Flip side of the knife, flip side of the story. All right, guys, forgive me. It has been hectic. The wife and kid are back from Japan finally. So there's a couple small things about this knife that I'm not over the moon about, and they're just tiny little things. I would like to have seen this done with, if possible, thumb studs. The flipper tab on it is good, but on it, it just almost looks like it's too much. Now, I don't know if this is what the full-size Labrador looked like, but I'm not a fan of like the really pronounced flipper tabs, or the pocket peckers, as my buddy Nick Shabazz likes to call it. I think that I could have done with a different type of flipper tab or a thumb stud. I don't know, might not have worked on something this small. Next thing, the pivot has worked its way loose a couple times. It'll work itself loose and it'll get off center. Now it is right now, I've got it put back together and I put Loctite on it, so I think it's going to stay. That might have been my fault that I hadn't Loctited it yet, but it definitely had worked its way loose. But the action does not suffer with a tight pivot. It's not like you have to have the pivot loose. And then basically the last thing, the very last thing, I love how they didn't put a lot of jimping on the knife. Doesn't need it. I would like to have seen this on the inside, or just knock those corners off. If companies would just start just chamfering, see how they've chamfered that? Just run that chamfering bit around those edges in, and it won't do this because that catches on the pocket. It does catch on the pocket, especially with how close the pocket clip is. You can see that the pocket clip kind of does push material down into that spot, which does mean that that catches on your pocket, and sometimes you got to fight with it to get it all the way in your pocket. Does a lot better on thinner pants. I did wear this in slacks. I had to go to a retirement ceremony for a friend of mine that was retiring from the military, and so I did wear this in slacks, or carry this in slacks, and it's perfect in and out of slacks and shorts. But when you start getting into thicker material, like especially like 511s where they have that reinforced pocket, it does catch a little bit. But all in all, this is just a champ of a small knife. I can't get over how much I've started to love these mini knives, and big shout out to Vosteed for being so easy to work with and being willing to send me this stuff. So is it a yup or a no? It's a yup. It's a yup all day. It's not an expensive knife. It's done in really quality materials. You can't go wrong with it. Absolutely could not recommend it more highly. So guys, that's it on this one. Let's turn it around, do some final thoughts, and send you out about your day. There you go, guys. I have been really impressed with this. I think of the ones that Vosteed have sent me, this one, which is the mini Labrador, the mini Nightshade, and the Corgi Pup, have been some of not just good mini knives, just great knives overall. Matter of fact, the mini Nightshade, I think, is better than the full-size version. So not to make this take any longer, you guys know what to do. We're at the end of the video, so like, share, subscribe, drop a comment. Check out my affiliate links down below if you're going to buy any knives or knife or related items. They're down there. They don't cost you anything extra at checkout, but they do support the channel. There's an Amazon store down there that you can use for all your Amazon shopping. Same thing applies, no additional cost, just a little bit of support for the channel. And there's a couple of links down there have a discount built in, 10% off at Coffee Brand Coffee and Tempered Trail Coffee Brand Coffee. Best coffee you're going to get. I'm promising you right now. If you don't like it, money back guarantee. You can send it back. Their company has been awesome to deal with, and I love their coffee. There is a way that you can also save money using my coupon code crazysharp, all one word, all lowercase, over at Fair and Forge Knife Works. KATSU knives and Rosecraft blades. It'll save you 10% at checkout. The membership that you can check out down below. I also have a public Discord. It says join the community in the community, or in the description below. Guys, that's it on this one. I don't make it take any longer. I love you all. Keep it clean in the comment section. If it's your birthday, happy birthday. And I will see you in the next video.